Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Stock Convention with the weekly comic book roundup. We've already gone through this week's X-Men titles, Avengers titles, miscellaneous Marvel titles, and cosmic Marvel titles. So now we'll be finishing up with Spider-Man titles and DC. Kicking things off with Symbiote Spider-Man Alien Reality number 4. Where we left off, Doctor Strange, having put two and two together that, having realized that the costume that Spider-Man wears is a living being, he and Spider-Man went to confront Baron Mordo and Hobgoblin. Mordo, who had taken over, who had, caused all the problems that were going on. However, they were seemingly beaten, though they met. However, they were overpowered, but they still managed to escape. But the Red Cat did not. And it was revealed the Red Cat was working alongside Mordo and Hobgoblin. And so, the issue begins in the Arctic with Strange and Spidey walking through a portal. Spidey insists that the two return to rescue Red Cat. Though Strange just said, why? I mean, something's off about her. And there are things he can sense about people, and something about her just didn't feel right. Spider-Man, says, so you think I care about your feelings? I mean, he says, she's and Doctor Strange cuts him off, saying, or what? She's not your girlfriend. You don't reciprocate her feelings, so why do you care? Spidey grabs him, and his free hand kind of claws out a bit. And he says, because I do. Strange says, okay, fine. We'll return outside the sanctum. Hopefully we won't be expected so quickly. Morbius, still in the snow, however, sees this and as they leave and says that he hates those guys. Outside the sanctum, everything seems normal, and Red Cat gets to drop on Spider-Man, explaining that, she got free. Dr. Strange is especially interested in the how. She explains that she's the Red Cat. She escaped far more problematic traps than anything those two could set. But Strange presses her and she says that she used some knockout gas, which is very effective against, anything that breathes. Then it was simple. And turns out that, and she claims that she planted a receiver on Hobgoblin so that she could eavesdrop. And apparently he mentioned in passing where the Word of God was hidden. The Nightmare Realm. We actually get a really funny moment with Spidey trying to guess where the Nightmare Realm is. First Newark, then Staten Island, then he starts to say Connecticut, but Strange tells him to shut up. And then he tells him, we get the exposition page about the Nightmare Realm. It's as old as the imagination of humanity. It's a subsection of the dream dimension. Ruled by Nightmare, one of Doctor Strange's oldest foes, who rules it with an iron fist. It makes sense that a book capable of rewriting the world would be hidden in a land where imagination thrives. And Strange admits that it makes sense to hide it there. So, they try to figure out how to get there. And so, Red Cat has a solution. Appears to be more knockout gas. And so, Strange and and Spidey pass out. And Red Cat calls Hobgoblin. They come to in the night in the Daily Bugle offices, and Spider-Man looks a bit more like Venom than he does Spider-Man. Complete with the mouthful of jagged teeth and long tongue. Strange calls him on this, realizing that, well, you're the thing that, the costume's in control, has been in control, not Spider-Man. With the symbiote explaining that Spider-Man is checked out, saying he went fetal when his aunt was killed, couldn't take it. And, well, he asked how did Strange know, and Strange explains that he's fiercer than Spidey typically is. Also, the Red Cat's presence startled him. Spider-Man is never startled. Spider sense. It also explained that it's pretty obvious if one is paying attention. And they're trying to... they're in the Daily Bugle offices. So now they gotta think of something that would terrify them. And quickly get that in the form of J. Jonah Jameson as a Deathlock. This is one of those, you gotta see it, guys. They realize, though, there's no point in fighting him, so they go through a door. The door comes out over on Roosevelt Island on one of the cable cars. Apparently, though, on the night that Gwen Stacy was killed. And so Spider-Man, this time, rather than trying to grab her ankle with a web line, catches her. However, Green Goblin flies in and blasts her in the head. Explaining that we can't have that. Her death is far too important to the man he becomes. As he's monologuing, Spider-Man webs him, punches him, unmasks him, and reveals that it's not Osborn. It's Mary Jane under there. Mary Jane says to him that she had to kill Gwen, because then Spider-Man would never have been with her if Gwen were there. Which House of M Spider-Man kind of showed to be pretty spot on, actually. Then a young woman arrives, asking if they're looking for Nightmare, and introduces himself as being Daydream, Nightmare's daughter. The Dream Queen. We also get a little bit about how time works in the dream dimension. That in the real world, time moves sequentially. In the dream world, it's all happening at once. If it will happen, it already has. Spider-Man says it's kind of like a reverse causal arrow of time, which Daydream, yeah, exactly. Strange has no idea what Spider-Man's talking about. Spider-Man begins to explain, and Strange then adds that he doesn't really care either. And so, they go to see Nightmare. And they end up in line at apparently a bookstore signing. Nightmare is signing books. Strange asks him what his game is, and he's like, it's not a game. And Nightmare then says, you want the Word of God, yes? Okay, good, I'll bring it to you. Though this does disturb Strange and Spider-Man a little bit. And so Nightmare takes him to where it's hidden, explaining that he has no desire for the book to remain there. It's far too powerful a volume for his realm. It's not hidden. It's not hidden, though. No one can access no one can access anything in Nightmare's realm unless he permits it. However, he does explain that if other more powerful beings learn of the Word of God's existence here, they could lay siege to his realm. And he does not like the idea of yet another war in his world. So they get the book. Strange opens it, only to realize it's a fake. It's 2 words written across 2 pages simply say, "Got you." Also, Strange's sling ring is gone. Back in the real world, turns out that Red Cat took the ring, or managed to take the ring from Strange while they were talking earlier. However, Mordo has placed a time freeze spell on them, so they will never awake. And she's then asked about the Word of God, and he summons it forth. And so this, the volume is going to undo all our hard work. And he promptly sets it alight, saying, "What about it?" That is where the issue ends. Obviously, this will actually end well, though there's distinct possibilities. I have the feeling that it will lead into Spider-Man going to Fantastic Four to find out what the deal is with his costume. Moving on to Venom number 24. Where we left off, while fighting against the Carnage symbiote, Eddie Brock, separated from the Venom symbiote, climbed to a lightning rod, and as it was struck by lightning. When he awoke, Captain America had come to his rescue, and despite Eddie's protestations to return, Eddie, I might add, who had cut off his left hand to avoid Carnage getting into him. Well, as the Quinjet with Cap and Eddie flew away, Cap quickly explained they couldn't go back to the island because it was being nuked as they were leaving. So we begin in a New York hospital. Eddie is bruised and bandaged. And he talks about phantom limb syndrome. So, it's the sensation of a missing or amputated appendage. It feels like it's still there. Oftentimes, the sensation, so he's told, can be painful or feel as though the missing limb is twisted or in an unnatural position. Missing nails clawing into the palm of a missing hand. Initially can't be scratched. A ghost of what once was. So he's been in the bed for 3 weeks now. 3 weeks since he was airlifted off a deserted island. 3 weeks since... It took him a week to wake up. And when he did, the doctor asked if he was having a sense of phantom limb. Feelings and sensations that belonged to something that wasn't there anymore. He said that he did. The screaming pain he felt and the part of him was gone. It took another couple of weeks for him to finally realize he was talking about it. The doctor was talking about his hand. Just outside the room, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, and Captain America are talking about him, occasionally looking in at him. And he says he sees everything in their pitiful glances. But they smile at him like a dog on his way to be put down. He's lost it, in every sense of the word. So Cap comes to see him. Apparently he's got a visitor. Dylan. They talk, but it turns out that Dylan's there to tell him he can't live with Eddie anymore. Cap explains that the situation isn't the best for Dylan. Going on to explain that Dylan has told him about their living conditions between the War of the Realms, the Carnage incident, and what's going on now. Dylan has been the target of several very dangerous situations. And with Eddie being out of commission, well, he explains he's only been out for 3 weeks. Everything's over now. And Cap explains, over? 3 weeks? You've been asleep for months. Null isn't coming. Null is here. Looks out the window of the hospital, and Null, big as life, is rampaging through New York with symbiotes everywhere. Dylan explains that Null came to him in his dreams and could have done something about it. They could have, but Eddie had left him. Cap goes on to explain that the death toll is already in the thousands. If we'd had some warning, maybe they could have done something. The doctor comes in, and apparently it's time for Eddie's medicine. The doctor plugs in an IV, and Eddie asks, what's being put inside of him? And he realizes. And he goes, look at the doctor, and it's none other than Cletus Cassidy. Leaving Eddie to realize that, yes, this is all a dream. He's still on the island. He explains he should have known by the way Dylan was speaking. Dylan would have called Eddie Dad. So he comes to on the island with the Carnage Symbiote trying to wrap itself around him. And at least getting enough control to pick Eddie up and begin walking. Back in New York, Dylan and Sleeper are talking with the little chunk of the Grendel symbiote, which Dylan is using to try and find Null, but so there's too many, and the highs are connected to all of it. However, he can see Venom. He manifests a portal. Sleeper's like, whoa, wait. You should go through that? Dylan simply says that he thinks he has to go through it. So Sleeper asks what he sees in there, and he's like, my dad, and his symbiote was alone. I had to go save them. So he steps into the portal into inky blackness and begins to talk to the Venom symbiote. And Dylan asks, where's Eddie? Venom explains it. Carnage has got him. However, he also says, they're stronger when Dylan explains that, however, they're stronger when they're not alone. The symbiote also reminds him that since Dylan's physical form isn't there, they don't have to be in human form. They can be anything. And so, Dylan takes the form of a motherfucking T-Rex and tells Carnage to get away from his dad. And that is where the issue ends. All leading up to Venom number 25. Excuse me. Moving on to Spider-Man, The Black Cat Strikes, number 3. Where we left off, Black Cat is stealing flash drives, supposedly for Hammerhead. Flash drives that contain the financial information of all the New York mob families. She has told Spider-Man that Hammerhead is contracted to do this, or has blackmailed her into doing this, because he has her son. And because Black Cat and Spider-Man had a relationship previously that did include sex, well, Spider-Man has, of course, figured it's quite possibly my kid. He's also been trying to figure out how to tell Mary Jane about all this. And generally ignoring her. So, the issue begins in the now. Mary Jane's looking out a window, watching as Spider-Man paces and talks to himself. And finally, he comes in and explains that, he's sorry he's late. He's hoping she wouldn't wait up, but and so he says, Felicia told him something. He's kind of shook, and he was trying to process. If it's a thing, it'll affect you too. So we should probably talk. We then get a flashback to just before before Peter and MJ broke up years ago. The one night they were cooking dinner, dumplings, and the dumplings caught fire while Spidey was on the phone with Police Captain Watanabe. Apparently the Scorpion's on the Brooklyn Bridge. And he realized he probably wandered away from the dumplings. Webs up the kitchen, drops fire, and sprinklers go off. So he goes to take care of it. The fight with Scorpion is fairly standard, but he does get stung, thrown into a van, and people begin to wonder. Apparently things did not go well with Spider-Man, and maybe he's just been killed. And eventually, later on that night, he shows up. It wasn't being thrown into the bus that hurt him, but it was rather the sting. And MJ breaks up with him. A couple weeks later, when she was applying for a job at the Daily Bugle, she was texting Peter to try to, hope everything's good. I'm applying for this position at the Bugle. I hope it's not too much trouble, but since you used to work there. And she says, the girl who just broke up, he wants help getting a job. And so she deletes the message. Just as Black Cat shows up with fighting Vulture. Spider-Man right behind her. And two of them take down Vulture, and MJ, or Black Cat, ends up talking with the ex briefly, though, not as ex-girlfriend to current girlfriend, just, superhero to innocent bystander. Cut back to now, and Peter is telling, it looks like, she's got a kid that could be mine, and she tells him what it was like back then. And she was knowing that he started dating a super sexy cat brother like 2 weeks after they broke up. And she put it, wasting whole work days torturing herself online, obsessively researching everything about her, criminal records, fan theories, photo after photo after photo. She couldn't understand how he was already over them. What he was seeing a career criminal, and she felt abandoned and scorned, and every time she wanted to lash out, make him feel everything she was feeling, she sat with it, accepted it, got over it, and tried to be happy for Peter and move on. What she's upset about is that Peter didn't trust her enough to just straight come here and tell her about it. That maybe their relationship he doesn't think that their relationship is strong enough to weather it. And they did get an address. So they go to one of Hammerhead's warehouses. 10 minutes later, Spidey's interrogating webbed up thugs. Black Cat goes into the vault. And Peter finds out that he's been played. She was in there to grab the other flash drive. He gets locked. She shuts him in the vault. Some of the goons go in and find the vault empty. because they didn't look at the ceiling where Spider-Man is. However, it turns out that Hammerhead's laid a trap for Black Cat. Yeah. But his spider sense goes off, and she tries to tell her not. He tries to tell her not to go in, but as she opens the door, or moves open the door, the penthouse explodes, and that is where the issue ends. And moving on now to the distinguished competition, Batman's Grave, number 6. Where we left off, a riot had broken out at Arkham Asylum, while Batman and Jim Gordon were both there. And so, meaning that the two would have to work together to make their way out. Batman had already made it clear he was not going to he would not be tolerating lethal force from Gordon. So, they make their way through. Batman explains that he knows the halls of Arkham at the back of his hand. He can walk with his eyes closed. Gordon figured, in case of a breakout, or in case I'm ever locked in. Gordon says that kind of seems paranoid, though Batman does bring up the fact that Arkham himself wants Batman in there. And there's also the possibility that Gordon or his successor will change their mind about him. Gordon likes the fact that Batman thinks he'll live long enough to see Gordon retire. And Batman also likes that Gordon thinks he'll live long enough to retire in general. But they continue making their way through. However, Batman is beginning to think that this gang that they're going after, maybe they've been actually doing stuff for a while, but this is just the first thing they've been caught doing. After all, Hellfront had been working on Turton for months. So just because it's the early start doesn't mean this is where they started. Hired either bases in a criminal psychiatrist may simply have been the first mistakes they made. Also, gangers sent to kill a police officer in an alleyway may be your best indication. Overconfidence leads to indiscipline. So they continue to make their way through. Batman taking down all the inmates as they pass through them, including a room full of them with a grenade full of mini batarangs. Then he then proceeds to beat on them, finishing up. But a few hours later, Gordon is called. They've left Arkham, but Gordon has called Batman back. Apparently, a man named Cornelius Stirk is missing. Cornelius Stirk's whole shtick is, as Gordon puts it, someone who gets off on scaring people to death and eating their hearts. Back at the Batcave, Alfred asks why Stirk was in Arkham. Batman explains that Stirk insists he has psychic powers that the heart meat fuels exotic organelles in his brain implanted by NASA. Turns out Alfred has a similar experience from his intelligence operative days. In Berlin in the 80s, one of those terrorist groups that were part ideological, part cult, the headman believed he had been given powers in the true word by a red laser from space. Had 30 people convinced he could fly and become invisible. The group was in opposition to the Red Army faction, which was still going. It was being funded by the Stasi the whole time. So, Alfred's lot decided to give them this maid. So Alfred went to their terrible house, delivered some goods, and found and found the leader writing a scripture on the bodies of children with a knife. Batman asks how Alfred handled this, and he explains that he put two in the back of his head and threw him in the river. Waited patiently on the bridge to see if he'd fly up out of the water. Apparently, he never did. Turns out, however, that Gotham's top CSI was killed in his home. And so, Batman contacts Gordon to investigate. Gordon tells Batman that Batman will probably have no more than 15 minutes here, but it's not Stirk. Apparently, the door was unlocked, and given that Danny would never enter his house if he had his door open, the killer probably let themselves out. Gordon also explains that Batman would have liked Danny. Danny, guy was paranoid. Came in for dinner once. The place had more security than he'd ever seen in a single structure, including banks. Batman says he doesn't see any security cameras, but Gordon says you can bet he had them, probably hidden somehow. And so apparently the guy was killed on his bed. Though Batman wonders, why was he killed outdoors? Explaining he was killed in his home, which was the most secure structure Gordon had ever seen. Why not kill him before he opened the front door? Because they wanted to use him to make a point to us, or to them. The killers wanted Batman and Gordon to know that there's no safe place. So he tries to reconstruct everything. And he finds some clues. A few gunshots on the wall. So he has the suit confirm the exact time, 6:13 a.m. and 23 seconds. The clock on the wall says 6:12 and 11 seconds. So someone shut the system off for a little over a minute to get in, and didn't or couldn't adjust the system clock to match. The victim sees the time is off, knew, ran for his gun, as well as a panic button. It was the gunshots that brought the 911 call. So why was the head of Gotham CSU murdered? And Batman then asked if the head of the Gotham CSU solved his own murder. And that is where the issue ends. And now for our final book of the week. The Dollhouse Family, number 5. Where we left off. After the explosion, Alice lost her leg, and Una lost her hands. However, Una's father came back in the picture, and however, something occurred, and Una offered herself up to the dollhouse, and Alice's leg grew back. So, of course, the police don't really believe the story that is told is simply that she disappeared from her room. The police don't entirely believe that, however. And it's been asked that they not, if Alice or her boyfriend leave London, to let the police know. However, Alice decides to do some research. We see Cordwainer making his deal to live in the house in his 60s. With Elizabeth Moyne, Cordwainer Kent's eldest daughter, vanished around the time she turned around 54 years of age. James Donaher was an opium addict and a convicted felon. Left a rooming house in Leeds, leaving a mountain of debts with a reward offer, but no one ever claimed it. Daniel Moyne was a vicar for the Church of England. He was arrested for cottaging. The body was never found, but the police assumed suicide because it made so much sense. And then there's Alice's great aunt Margaret, Peggy O, reported missing from Whipps Cross Hospital in 1962, declared legally dead in 1979, which was when the will was read and the dollhouse came to Alice. Though Jake Jake's having trouble wrapping his mind around it because Alice has told him that James and Daniel and Peggio were children. So Alice explains that Corbett was in the prime of his life, but he was way past 60 when he died. The guess is the dollhouse changes one. And so she got a timeline. So she's going to begin looking. However, Jake says, "I'll go with you," but no. If the police sergeant she spoke with earlier drops in, she can't find the place empty. So she goes to the house, starts looking around, knocks over a bowl, and the room is illuminated. She begins to see, but before she can be told see everything that happens, a local local Bobby shows up and arrests her. However, later on that night, the lawyer arrives and basically says there's no way that Alice could have been trespassing, as it is actually her house. Seeing as how it was technically willed to her, along with a few other belongings, including a safety deposit box, which she goes to open up, finding a gun, a bag, as well as Joseph Kent's journal. So she goes to a bar, works up some courage, asks about the old Hayhurst estate, the Kent house. Bartender explains there's a prettier story that sticks out. Girl who was in service there went mad on account of something she saw down in one of the cellars, something terrible. But she never spoke of what it was, and then hanged herself soon thereafter. So she goes to the house, and manages to see the young maid taking the afterbirth to be burned in the furnace. However, when she goes to take it, the afterbirth disappears, and so the young girl figures a rat must have grabbed it. And what she sees, however, is the afterbirth turning itself into the dollhouse. A cat that has previously shown up before, that has shown up a few times before. Alice calls the cat Ghost, saying, you're always there, watching. And she asks, why would anyone make a dollhouse out of a placenta? And so the cat clears its throat and says, you might do it if you were trying to be born. And that is where that part of the issue ends. We still, however, have Chapter 17 of Sea Dogs. Where we left off, the captain of the HMS Havoc had the last glimpse of his mysterious foe, a creature with the head of a wolf and the form of a man. Of course, now they ride on the edge of a hurricane in pursuit of the Spanish, the captain must admit the crew's most dangerous enemy is already aboard. So Captain Wollstonecraft asked the helmsman what he saw, and the helmsman explains that there were 3 of them. Tore Reed apart. The great black one came up over the side and threw Midship O'Brien into the sea. Another wicked dog, yellow coat and only one eye, took Scully's head off with one swipe. Wollstonecraft explains that there are monsters aboard and they must find him. However, one of the other officers says we should give up the chase, though. Captain says after the madness of the last hour and the storm, he doubts they could find the whole fleet, let alone 3 tiny Spanish. However, they are now surrounded by the Spanish. And that is where the issue ends. And that's it for this week's comic book roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.